honestly, I truly have a great honor and privilege to interview our next guest speaker and mentor, Devin Simpson, who I know personally, who I served with here at Fort Gordon, Nyack, Georgia, here for some time, and then we both retired and went off to do amazing things. And as you can see on your screen that we're sharing, Devin works as a territory account executive for Salesforce, who he landed with after he did an HOH skill bridge and cohort with them and got connected with them full time. Ended up moving from where we are in near Augusta out to the beautiful city of Noonan near Atlanta. And we're going to talk about a lot of things as well. But Devin, it's so awesome to have you here. I'm so glad you jumped on this and to come into Seven Eagle Academy and give back to our transitioning service members and provide some of those insights. I know it's nice to have someone like you because obviously you just went through this process. You just went through SkillBridge, was able to land an amazing opportunity out there at Salesforce. I'd love to discuss some of those kind of hurdles you faced in your transition, but I'd love for you to take a second of your time to kind of introduce yourself, your background, and kind of where you're at now.
Yeah, absolutely. First, thank you guys for inviting me here. It's a privilege. I sat through a lot of things just like this, and I found a lot of those very valuable. So I appreciate you inviting me, Matt, and I appreciate you thinking of me for it. But as Matt said, I had the pleasure. We worked together at our last command. We both retired out of there, so now we're old guys with the gray beards, and I'm absolutely loving that life. So yeah, I joined the Navy back in '03, so did just shy of 22 years. Did ships and all that cool Navy stuff. But I just retired. I retired July 31st. So I am not very long into this process. And as he said, I did my skill bridge with the HOH program and was able to get into an apprenticeship or a fellowship here at Salesforce. So that was the door that opened for me, and I hopped on it, and here we are. So I've been working here now for about 6 months, but we did have to do a move. That was kind of part of the thing. So that's kind of quick in a nutshell of what I got.
No, I appreciate that because I want to dive into some of that conversation too, because I know that moving wasn't at the top of your list of things that you wanted to do, moving your family and stuff like that to a new city. And I won't hold the fact that you didn't go through Seven Eagle Group in our academy against you too much. But it is truly an honor to have you back here, have you speak at the academy. But yeah, I want to explore some of that because your process in finding a skill bridge, right? Because everybody on this call is looking for that next opportunity, right? The next chapter of life, how to step into a doorway and use it as a launching pad for their career as a civilian. And you, obviously, through the HOH process, through the fellowship, you were able to connect with the folks at Salesforce to land the job you have now. But I want to go back a little bit because obviously that was not initially kind of what you were looking for, but you obviously landed Salesforce and had to move for this opportunity. And I know opening that door, being flexible to move, comes with its own challenges. Can you walk us through a little bit of that decision process when you were able to get that offer from Salesforce to come join them to take this opportunity? How did that conversation go with the family to make the decision ultimately to move?
Yeah, that's a great question. And ultimately, I had to start with what is my why, right? I could have stayed in the military, could have reenlisted, had good opportunity for promotion. Just ultimately, I was tired of leaving home. So I didn't want to go back to sea. I didn't want to do the 9-month deployments again. So my why was the family. The question then came to, where do we want to be? So this is one thing that I thought about long and hard. We often, as military folks, get described as, we can make decisions under pressure and we can operate in high stress environments, which is all absolutely true. But if I will say anything that I learned, that the military also kind of became my mom for the last 22 years. And they told me, you're going to live here. You're going to go to this place. This is what you're going to go. This is what you're going to wear. These are your work hours. This is what you're doing. And I never really had to make a decision. So it, it's weird to kind of describe it as it almost kind of stunted me from having to make those decisions myself. And when that time came, as I'm sure a lot of you are probably feeling now, it was disorienting, right? It was, oh man, where you mean nobody's going to tell me where to go next? Where do I go? I could go anywhere, right? I could do anything I want to do. Um, and that was ultimately what I had to answer for myself. So I made my priorities was I want a job where I can be with my family. And I want a job that doesn't include a whole lot of travel. That was a big thing for me was I wanted to be home. And one of those key factors was I wanted to stay where I was. We were trying to stay in Augusta, down there near Fort Gordon. Um, that just happened to be one that didn't work out. So had some long talks through that with my wife, and she's been serving just as long as I have, and it ultimately came down to we're going to be a family wherever we are. And Atlanta, the door opened, and we absolutely felt like that was just something. I don't know. I'm a believer. It felt like something that God was putting in front of our life, and it was just an opportunity we took. So we decided to take the leap and make the move.
Yeah. How many, when you were going through that process with HOH, obviously it's similar to us and how we do things, but obviously they have cohorts and they function a little bit differently. When you were going through their program and you submitted your application, you submitted your resume to them, and they were reaching out, and how many opportunities did you have, or were you able to see before Salesforce came and offered this opportunity?
Yeah, not as many as everyone your whole career would have led me to believe. We kind of hear, oh man, military, you're so easily hireable and your skill sets translate everywhere and it's really easy just to hop into a role. That was not my experience. I don't know about everybody else, but yes, we do have very desirable skills, but it's how do we translate those things and how do we connect those to what we're going to be doing? But Matt, the other opportunities that popped up were they were either places I really didn't want to go. Like, I mean, it was something like New York City and things like that, which, I mean, good on you if you like that life. That just wasn't for me. But this was the door that opened that I felt like had the most opportunity. And as I kind of started evaluating, I mean, honestly, I had kind of heard of Salesforce, but not really, I really didn't understand what they did. Um, I knew the Navy used them to track PRT scores, so that was kind of my experience. And admin used it some to keep track of our stuff. But as the more I dug into that, and I really just started seeing what stood out, even from just going to the webpage, was a culture. And that was a big thing for me, is what I was looking for. And the other opportunities that opened up just didn't quite have the same feel as the culture is really what drew me to pick Salesforce.
Yeah, actually, I want to go on to that because you brought up something that I think a lot of folks maybe on this call kind of feel as well, kind of like led erroneously saying, "Hey, the sky's the limit. You can get anything you want. Everything's at your fingertips." But honestly, it takes a lot of work. And what we try to kind of talk about in foundations, and I'm sure some of the foundations folks on here can attest to. We tell them like transition is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, and it is a real struggle for some people. So when you were given the opportunity, maybe presented with this Salesforce, what is some of the things that you relied on going through the interview process from your background to communicate that experience, that expertise, the leadership, all that to get this position with Salesforce?
Yeah. So ultimately, and I think I may be kind of unique in this, that the part with hiring our heroes wasn't super hard, right? They took our resumes, they saw our backgrounds, and they just kind of did interviews with us. And it honestly just seemed like what they were looking for was a people fit, right? And what I'm learning here is, and I mean, if you don't know, an account executive, I'm in sales. 100% not something I was looking to do. Never even thought about it. When I think sales, I think, like car salesman. I was like, no way I'm doing that. But I started quickly figuring out that they were more focused on was it going to be a right fit for the team and the culture? The job part, they know we had the skill sets that we can learn and we're coachable and we can do things and we had the discipline to show up and work. It was ultimately it was almost like they were interviewing, like, are you going to be a good fit for somebody we want to work with, is what it
Yeah.
felt like. And that was ultimately why I think I wound up getting the offer from Salesforce. So I think that was pretty important, that humility is going to play a really, really big role in this process, because I got to tell you, the rank doesn't matter here. I very much doubt any of you are going to have your ribbon rack on your resume, and even if you did, not a single person is going to know what that means. Okay, and so I mean, it's really difficult to the civilian world is not basing leadership off of rank, right? I mean, we kind of had that structure and that thing, and you respect the rank, but it really had nothing to do with the person or the performance. It's the other way around here, that it is the person, the performance, that is what's standing out. So that's been a bit of a, I don't want to say a challenge, but if you come into this as with the mindset of, I was this and I led all these people and these things, I just don't think it would work. Because
Yeah.
I got to tell you, this is the first time in 22 years I've been new at a job, and it's almost like starting over. So being humble is gonna keep you where you need to be.
Yeah. Corbin, I see your hand up. Give me 1 second. I'll give you a shout out here in a second. And you mentioned sales, right? Something that you had technically no desire to potentially pursue, right? Probably wasn't even on your radar as far as an opportunity to get into, because your background's not in sales. What
Nope.
From the Navy? What is your background coming out of the Navy? Like, what experience did you have?
Yeah, so I mean, I worked on ships. I was in electronic warfare, anti-ship missile defense, and electronic intelligence. That was my role, right? So definitely not a sales, or even now. I mean, this is tech sales. I mean, this is something that I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but the military's tech is not always front of the line. The gear I worked on, I think, was from the 1960s. So it was, yeah, CTT. Um, so yeah, very, very different, very different. So I wasn't planning on sales, and I'll be very honest. When they told me Salesforce, I was like, okay, the company seems cool. When they revealed the role that I would be doing the fellowship with, I almost didn't do it. It was very much like I don't think sales is for me, and I'm not sure this is something I want to pursue, just because of the mindset I had of what sales is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think a lot of us have that kind of negative connotation when it comes to when we hear the word sales, right? We think of the used car dealership and stuff like that trying to sell us a lemon, right? But what ultimately led to you opening up kind of your mind a little bit to saying, you know what, this might not be a bad opportunity for me. So what ultimately led to you saying yes to a position you may have even backed out of?
yeah, ultimately it boiled down to um, I think two things. One, the company, the culture seemed like it just looked like a place I wanted to work. And so even if, even if I kind of came in with the mindset of, all right, I'm going to do this. If I find out I don't love sales, it's a huge company. It's global. There's so many other things I could probably get my hands in. Um, but I'll tell you, that's not the case. Sales is actually pretty exciting, and I'm learning a ton. Um, but two was when when I actually started the fellowship, and I came here with this mindset of, all right, sales is going to be sleazy, and these people are all cutthroat, and it's going to be like the people coming knocking on your door asking to, I don't know, redo your windows or something. And I always feel terrible for those guys, because I know everybody hates seeing them, and it's just their job. And that's kind of what I thought it was going to be. And I was completely taken aback of how it wasn't that. Now,
Yeah.
I can't say that for every place, but I can say that for here. is what I figured out, that this was 100% a team culture. And that was really high on my what I want list from a new job. I love teams. I love working in teams. Guys like Matt and I have led teams for years, and that was where I felt like I really thrive. Um, so that was huge for me. And once I figured out that, okay, that's what this is, and it wasn't sleazy cutthroat culture, that kind of sealed the deal.
How much time were you able to utilize your skill bridge to spend with the team before they ultimately offered you a full-time position there after skill bridge?
Yeah, so our skill bridge was, I want to say, 11 or 12 weeks long. The first couple weeks was kind of like onboarding stuff, but I got to spend a solid 2.5 months in the office, like in sitting in the rows right next to all the other guys. And I mean, I was commuting from Augusta to Atlanta, so that, I mean, that was not a great time.
Yeah.
Good news is I have family here. I grew up not far from Atlanta, so I was able to kind of stay in the city when I was here. But either way, um, I think I was about 9 to 10 weeks in before they told me I'd be offered a role.
Wow, that's awesome. And so obviously working through the skill bridge, utilizing skill bridge to work with the team that you ultimately are with now, how important was that to basically leverage the skill bridge into this OJT opportunity that has led you to start a career with Salesforce?
Um,
Did it
Help me
change
out.
your
Say that again.
perspective? Did it change your perspective once you got in and were able to use SkillBridge to work with the team, to work with Salesforce? Did it change your perspective of the company and the mission and maybe even the role that you were going into?
100%. And that was what, I'll be honest, I took the skill bridge program kind of with a mindset of, all right, this may not be for me. And I was 100% fully prepared that if it wasn't for me, I wasn't going to do it. No matter the money, no matter whatever they offered, that it had to be a good fit for me to do it. Um, but it didn't take me very long after being here to figure out that, yeah, this is different than the mindset I had going in, and it was not really a tough decision for me when the time came.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to take a little trip too into your current role, right? You look at the title that's on your LinkedIn that I posted for everybody. Again, I highly encourage you guys to reach out and connect with Devin on LinkedIn as well. But if you look at it, territory account executive, it sounds very, very fancy, right? Territory account executive. What does that job entail with Salesforce?
It's a good question. I love how all these titles make everyone sound like the most important person in the world. I'm sure you guys have seen those things on LinkedIn. There's like, this is what you're actually trying to say, but this on LinkedIn, it's, 3 paragraphs long. Um, and that's absolutely true. But what my role is, territory account executive simply means that I have a territory. So the team I'm working on, our territory happens to be, all of our customers are located in or around the DC area. So that's our territory. Um, the account executive part of that simply means I get a group of accounts. So this is actually happening right now. Salesforce's end of fiscal year happens to be the end of January. So every February, those accounts will get moved around and rotated. And so that part where I kind of came in with that mindset of like, we're all going to be fighting over people and people are going to be backstabbing each other. It's not like that at all. I have a very organized list of accounts that are mine, and nobody else messes with them, and I don't mess with anybody else's. So there's not a back and forth, or like you walk into the car dealership and like 8 salespeople are trying to get to you first, kind of thing. It's not like that. So it is basically my role as I have in my account list, I basically have, some of them are what we call installs. So they're already current Salesforce customers. And so my job there is to make sure they're taken care of, basically, grow those accounts and help them kind of fulfill their needs as a business. And I also have a much larger list of what we call prospects or new logos. They don't have Salesforce at all. Um, And I will tell you that's the most salesy part of the job, because there is some of that where I just have to like cold call these people and just, hey, I'm reaching out. I see you have this. And try and book a meeting with them to start talking about the process. And that's way harder, in my opinion. And I'm still learning a lot, but it it took away that fear of full disclosure. I'm not the most aggressive guy. All right, I'm kind of a nice dude, and I don't know if I'm exactly an alpha type personality. So I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, because I thought that's basically what you had to be, right? You see in the movies, The Wolf of Wall Street, and everybody's, and that's just not me. So I was honestly more worried about, am I going to be a good fit for this? Not so much the other way around,
Yeah.
but I didn't find that at all. So um, but that's kind of the role. So I mean, now we yeah, sell me this pen. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought this was going to be. And it's not like that. What I love about this is they started off basically by telling me, um, one, if you ever go and look at Salesforce and try and figure out all the things that Salesforce sells, it's almost impossible. And as soon as you get it figured out, it changes, right? Salesforce is a huge company. They keep buying up other companies that sell good products, and they kind of bring it into the Salesforce ecosystem. Um, so I thought, I'm like, man, I got to become an expert in everything here, but that wasn't the case. Really, what drives our job is trying to get in touch with these businesses and their companies and find their pain. What is it that is slowing them down? What are they doing that is completely manual? Um, and you guys know this from the military. I don't know how many of you are in here from the Navy, but like if you want to find your awards, you got to go to this website. And if you got to find your medical information, you got to go here. And if you want to see your past evals, you got to go here, and you got to go here. This is really all about bringing that into one like single source of truth, one pane of glass kind of thing. So that is ultimately what has made this business so successful, is they are making lives easier for everybody out there doing their jobs. So ultimately, what I'm selling is a platform to make the lives easier of all these people in these businesses.
Yeah.
Where I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you because I was seeing some correlation. Obviously, 22 years of experience, and I'm sure a lot of folks are on this call that have spent lots of time in the service, maybe have served and taken care of soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, right? It's about finding what's best for them, mentoring them, taking care of them, solving their issues, solving their needs. As senior leaders go, right? That is one of our main missions, right? Is to take care of
Yes.
the sailors, the soldiers, the airmen, so that they can continue to do their mission correctly and on time and stuff like that and have the right tools. So how much of your, if you take a step back and look at your role now, how much of the leadership experience, the mentorship experience, kind of the care and feeding experience that you have from the Navy is now greatly involved in your job today?
Yeah. A couple things about that actually. One of those things that helped this kind of click for me that sales was okay was I figured out that sales is ultimately a people business. That's what this is. It really doesn't matter the product. It's a people thing, right? You're reading people, you're selling to people, you're trying to find a way to help them. And that's ultimately where I felt like I could do this. I got to shadow a bunch of calls when I was doing the fellowship, because I didn't have my own accounts or anything like that. But the other team members, I would just kind of tag along with them and show up in their calls and all their Google Meets and Zoom meetings and all that stuff. And I'd just sit there like a goof, like trying to, hi, I'm just here to learn. But one of the ones that kind of clinched it for me was watching this company, and I won't use their name, but they basically do cleaning for like resorts. They do a lot up in like the Tennessee and Gatlinburg, all the cool places you can go rent. They run a business for cleaning, um, and they were a small business. We often think, Salesforce has humongous customer, Disney's and Amazon's and huge enterprise level customers, but a vast majority of our business comes from small business. So I was able to watch them kind of go through, and they showed us their process of what it looks like when, you know, somebody checks into a room and there's a problem with it or something's broken and somebody calls and they had to like put in a ticket and then they had to go here to do this and here to do this and here to do this. And we kind of put together a demo and showed them. I say we, I was just sitting there. They put together a demo and showed them of what it looks like. And I mean, they just sat there with their mouths open. They were like, this is incredible. Like, I had no idea this would make my life so much easier and I could save hours per week. And that was when I was like, that's the thing I want to be able to do is it's ultimately it's a service role. And if you don't look at it that way, I don't think you're going to be super successful in sales. That's ultimately what we're here to do is help solve their need, not push on people what we want to sell because we make more money off of it. I'm not saying there's not people that don't do that. I mean, because there is, and it can be very lucrative. But I think if you're looking at it that way, I needed something a little more than money to motivate me in this job. That was basically the thing I told my wife was, okay, I didn't know what I was going to be offered, but I was like, I know this place pays well and it's very competitive, but ultimately, if there's no way for me to connect and there's no value in it past the money, then I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So that was a clincher for me.
Wow. Yeah, and I think that speaks to a lot of what we are taught here. Part of our academy, our goals team teaches us a lot of that kind of finding that purpose, right, outside of the money, right? And oftentimes, and our students can affirm this, right? You know, Judd Boyce from our goals team often asks, like, if you could do anything, if you didn't earn a paycheck for a job, would you still do it, right? And that's
Mhm.
part of that, finding that passion, finding that guiding that North Star that guides you in that purpose. And it sounds like that was one of the things for you, right? At the end of the day, if there's no meaning, no purpose behind this, and it's just a paycheck, then I can find something else, right?
Yeah, yeah. I could check you out at Home Depot. You know what I mean? Like that would be fine. But
Yeah,
yeah, I ultimately needed to connect something that I felt like I could help people in some way,
yeah.
other than just, all right, let's hope they buy this many things. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And Corbin, if you still have that question, man, I do want to open it up to questions here in just a second. I think the last question I wanted to kind of throw your way, obviously 6 months on the job now, you're kind of getting accustomed to the Salesforce process. And like you said, Salesforce is massive, right? They've got a lot of opportunities across the country. Um, you know, with your experience, and Salesforce has a team specifically dedicated to onboarding military folks, transitioning service members, veterans, and stuff like that. Um, with your experience and what you've seen so far with the team over there, you know, how, how has the experience been and Salesforce treating you as a veteran coming into their team for the first time?
Yeah, almost too well. Like almost makes me a little uncomfortable, right? Is like I came in doing the fellowship and everybody's like, "Oh wow, like you did what?" And they're asking all these questions and everybody was super excited. And Matt's right. Salesforce does actually have a pretty big military footprint, and they even have a thing. Like a lot of big companies now, and even the military did. We had like equality groups, like different things. They have one here called Vet Force, and so it's basically just a huge collection of people that we connect a lot on Slack. That's our big means of communications here, probably because we bought that company, so it makes sense. But um, it just it really made it stand out. And I mean, I'll see people walking around and they'll have a Vet Force T-shirt, or we immediately started getting invited to things and included in groups, and they'll go and they'll do like volunteer time together, or even online meetings where everybody can just kind of meet up. And and I encourage you guys to find it on LinkedIn. It's called Salesforce Military, and they have a page, and there's a retired naval officer that runs the whole thing, and he is running. His name's Tom House. You can find him on there as well, and he's in charge of that entire program. So I mean, this is definitely something that I could see almost immediately that Salesforce puts a lot of value in, so much so that they're hiring people to make that process work. So and there's so many different little ways to connect. Even in the sales roles, like the Navy has a team dedicated to them. The Air Force, every branch has a team dedicated just to them. The Army, I don't know if y'all saw, just went in at like just bought into Salesforce at like $6 billion or something. The Army just spent, and so they're definitely starting to see all the value.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was absolutely treated super well, and it made it to where, again, it was almost like, all right, stop thanking me for my service and just just teach me how to do the job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, we joke about it, but, finding these companies that really truly value our experience, right? Not saying that we need to be treated differently, but they know where we came from. And for us, going into a role and going into a company that has that community, right? Because it's something that we definitely lose as we're transitioning out, right? The community, the support, the brotherhood, all these things that we talk about the military being, because we all wear the same uniform. The Navy has gone through 17 different changes, but, relatively the same uniform, and we have that collective. So when we exit the military, we feel like we're missing that piece. So, for Salesforce, having a dedicated vet force, focusing on building that community back on the civilian side is probably huge.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, even now, there's another member of our team he was a vet as well. We actually currently on my team right now have two fellows that are going through the skill bridge process, just like I did, that are here and they're sitting right next to me every day. So I'm glad, which is great because I'm able to kind of like walk them through some things.
Yeah.
So it's been really good. If if you don't mind, I told you about a lot of things that I really liked. Let me tell you about a couple things that I found harder than I expected.
I love that.
Um, One, we as the military have a really great, and you may not think it that way, but a really great standardized process of how to train people that just doesn't exist here. The company does onboarding. The onboarding is great, but when it comes to um, just day in, day out learning the job, there's no PQS, there's no JQR, there's no follow these steps and you will become good at this and you're now qualified. It's not there. So that has been a challenge for me because it's kind of been like, hey, can I just watch what you're doing? You know what I mean? And try and pick up some of these things. So if I think there was an area for improvement for the military program, and that's probably the same across a lot of companies. My wife served in the military as well, and when she went back to work in the civilian world, she said the exact same things. And she kept telling me, she was like, "You're going to see this, like it's coming. They're not really going to show you how to do the job. They're just going to tell you to do the job, and you got to figure it out." And I'm like, it won't be that way. It was absolutely that way. So while
Your
one
wife is
advantage
always
I
right.
had,
Why would you?
no, no, yeah, I learned that a long time ago.
Yeah.
But she was right. And I mean, the good thing about where I am now is everybody understood that and everybody was so willing to help that it made it a lot easier. And I mean, I'm only 6 months into the job and I still feel like it's day one and it's overwhelming. Um, and one more piece, if I could kind of offer a little bit of advice, where I'm struggling now is it's not how to do the work, not how to do the little things. But when I would talk about we have to reach out to customers, is I figured out very quickly I don't know a lot about business. I don't know a lot about how small businesses run. I don't know the language. Like, what does it mean if what does it matter if someone's owned by a private equity firm, or what is a margin? I mean, these are all things that I'm kind of learning as I go, that, when I call them, I can't speak to them like I'm, delivering some sort of op plan brief or something to an admiral. It's not like that. Um, you have to understand them. And the scariest thing I could imagine is I'm on a call and they ask me like, what do we do? How do we make money? And if I don't know that, then how can they trust me to know what's a good fit for them? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's been a huge learning curve for me. And unfortunately, the role I got put in, they call us I'm a core account executive, and that basically means we can sell all the products, and we basically sell to almost all industries. And so, while when you come out of this, it will make you way more well-rounded. We have teams that are, we have teams dedicated just to health and life sciences, or we have teams dedicated just to manufacturing industry. So you can get really focused on those things and learn a lot about that thing. That's not the case for where I'm at. So I may make a call to a small town electric company. I may make a call to a government contractor, IT solutions firm. I have law firms on my account. I have one of the accounts is like a go-kart racing place, like a small. So like being able to understand how they work and what they do has been hard for me. So
Yeah.
I would advise, if you guys are kind of looking at that, no matter what role you're picking, um, learn that industry and learn the language, right? If you want to get into project management, which is what everybody told me for years would be the exact thing that I'm sure y'all hear this a lot. And like, I did all the steps, man. Like I got a degree and I did the PMP and I did the agile certs and I did the Lean Six Sigma stuff, and I did all these things, and here I am. So none of that worked out. No matter how much I padded the resume, I applied for jobs in those roles very specifically that I felt like I met the check boxes for all the things, and I never even got an interview, not one. So like, I was super happy this worked out, but I would 100% recommend take a little deep dive into whatever that lane is that you want to get into. If it's project management, then run with it. If it's retail, run with that. Learn how they measure success. Learn how they do promotions in the industry. Learn what it is that how do they speak their language? What matters? And that would have helped me so much more preparing for this role than just trying to kind of figure it out as I go now.
Wow. No, I thank you so much for that because I oftentimes we do talk about the flowery stuff, the success stories, and all this other stuff. And I do love when speakers dive into the struggles because one, you don't know what you don't know, right? And none of us sitting on this side of the camera know what it is like on the other side of of the uniform, right? We can guess, we can talk to people, but unless people are willing to actually tell us the truth, right? Give us some insights onto what to expect and help us overcome some of those obstacles that are potentially ahead of us. I mean, then that's the best thing to have is the truth coming out and saying, hey, this is what I experienced. This is the struggles I'm currently facing, but this is how I'm overcoming those things. So be prepared, right? Which is huge, and I appreciate you diving into those things, and the fact that I know you have PMP and you have all these certifications and you collected them throughout your career and stuff like that. And for all those folks on our call going through those certification programs and having those in their toolbox to use, you know, the question is, what if it doesn't work out, right? And like it did for you, you didn't get any of those callbacks, right?
Nope.
And you were, I'm very very thankful for the fact that it did work out for you, right? And you landed in a job that you weren't even expecting. Um, but did you put all your eggs into that basket? Did you say, hey, it's PMP or bust, or were you kind of under the realization that I've got to spread this around. I've got to look at different areas that maybe I'm not comfortable, but I'm willing to.
Yeah, I mean, eventually I came to that conclusion, kind of at the last minute. But no, I kind of drank the Kool Aid. They're like, "Oh, you're career senior chief. You've been managing projects your whole career, and even while studying and doing the PMP, I mean, it was very valuable and it was great information, and I learned an absolute ton doing it. Um, but I was even struggling to see. I'm like, wait, this doesn't look like exactly like what I was doing. I mean, like, leading a division was a little different than managing $1 million construction project. I mean, those are very different things. And I know we all have different backgrounds and ratings and MOSs, and maybe you have done those things, and that would be a perfect fit for you. But it just kind of wasn't the case for me.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I mean, I was pretty bought into that. In every little seminar I sat through or career fair I went to, and they kind of asked, what sort of roles are you looking for? That was the box I always checked. I'm looking for, project management roles, because basically that's what everybody told me I was a good fit for. Um, it it's kind of hard to self-evaluate and think like, what is it I'm actually good at? Um, I honestly thought I was going to wind up in some sort of like training or teaching capacity, because I actually like doing that. I really enjoy it. But just didn't happen. So it was it was definitely a harsh reality when that veil was kind of lifted away, and it was like, okay, maybe this PMP thing isn't going to work out. And that was about the time I was starting the skill bridge, and it was like, okay, let's see what the sales thing's all about.
Yeah.
There was a couple other opportunities that popped up, and they were great, but ultimately they just didn't seem like, if it's a place you don't want to go to work for the rest of your life, then yeah, I was like, why would I take a skill bridge there? So I ultimately went with the place where am I going to be, and am I going to enjoy doing it? Is it a place I don't mind going to, even though I have to commute through Atlanta, which I still hate? Um, but ultimately, it seems worth it in the end.
Yeah. Wow. No, I appreciate that answer. I really, really do. I have one last question for you before I open it up for everybody else. My last question for you, out of your experience, what you've been through, like the hurdles you've had to overcome getting into this job, and even 6 months into it, what is one thing, if you were to give any piece of advice, one piece of advice to everybody on this call right now, as they prepare for this next chapter, what would that one thing be?
Honestly, I think it's kind of going back to the finding your why, right? If you apply for a job, that should be what you're asking before you click that button. If you don't know what your goal is, then it really doesn't matter where you go. What's that thing from Alice in Wonderland where the Cheshire Cat, and she's asking, do I go this way or this way? And he's like, well, where are you going? And she's like, I don't know. And he says, well, it really doesn't matter where you go then, does it? So like, and that's ultimately where I was, right? I was going through this process, and I was like, I was so pigeonholed and laser focused on, I need a job, right? I have a family, I got 3 kids to support, I have to have a job. But I wasn't really asking the question of, what is it I really want to be involved in? I just wanted something, because I was scared to death of that first few months where there's no paychecks coming in, and I was going to sink. So um, I think everybody's going to say a lot of the same stuff. The networking thing is humongous, and I wish that wasn't true, but it really is. It really, really is. That those relationships were way more powerful than the resume, in my opinion. And so I'm sure you've heard that a lot. You're going to hear it a million more times, and it's true. But I would ultimately go back to, you need to figure it out, what it is you really want to do, or where you want to be, and what's important. Where your time and your effort and your money goes is really where your heart is. And if that's family for you, that was my top priority. Was I wanted to be home. I wanted to be a dad to my kids, and I didn't want 10 years from now to be, they don't speak to me anymore, they only come home on the holidays. That was ultimately what drove me. So whatever that fit. And again, we figured out it really doesn't matter what city we're in. We've moved around our whole career, and once I opened that aperture a little bit, I it didn't just make the job search easier. It was this like huge weight off of me, right? It was like suddenly like, it's okay if we have to move. It's okay. We've been doing this. My family knows how to do this. We're going to be together, and that's what I wanted. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that would be it. Know your why of why you're going into it.
No, I appreciate that. I greatly do. And it fits in with a lot of what we discuss here at Seven Eagle Group and what we put our folks through at the Academy. And I do want to open up if you guys have questions for Devin about Salesforce, about his journey. I want to open that up for you guys. So go ahead and throw those hands up if you got questions for him. I want to call on you guys and so you guys can ask your question to him. We got a few, probably another 5 or 10 more minutes to go. But yeah. Go ahead, Chris. I saw your hand go up first.
Thank you for being here, Devin. So, as you are working in sales and you say you want to be with your family, I also imagine being in sales, you have to make a lot of calls and reach out to a lot of people. How exactly do you balance that out with your family time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that was a huge thing I was looking for when I was evaluating this company. Please don't forget that that's part of the process. They are evaluating you, but ultimately you're interviewing the company as well. And that culture thing was huge. And I was super worried about that actually, because I have family members in sales and we can't go anywhere without them being on their phone the whole time or answering emails. Um, and ultimately part of that is just my own discipline. What am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do? But the other part was the culture here, and I did get a little worried. They gave me a computer, they gave me a work phone, and so now I have like a second cell phone that could ring at any time or whatever. But I haven't come across a situation yet. I haven't found it that like when I go home for the day that I can't put all that stuff away and just turn it off basically. So Christopher, there may be places where that may be a little harder, but I didn't find that to be the case here at Salesforce. And another great thing, and specifically for my role, they only require us to be in the office 3 days a week. So, like 2 days a week, I work from home. So my desk is right there in the house with everybody there, and you know, there's back and forth about that of what's distracting and what's not, but I actually really like it. I still make it to all my daughter's, dance things and, all the family stuff I have not struggled staying involved with.
Yeah,
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
appreciate it. Great question, Christopher. Adam.
Hi, Devin. Thanks for sharing your story with us. And I think you and I are very similar when it's coming towards knowing your why and family. And that's like my number one thing is family. I have a very big family. I have 5 kids from 17 all
Mm,
the way down to 4.
bless you.
So so yeah, it's a little stressful, but getting out of the military and giving that time back to the family, whenever we're approaching an interview. When discussing the work-life balance in an interview, how do you recommend to the candidates interviewing for that job on how to communicate that they value their family time while clearly demonstrating their reliability and commitment to the company they're still applying for? Not to come off in the wrong way, saying, "Hey, my family's first, but I'm not, but I'm still going to commit to this job."
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think the idea that a company is looking for somebody who's going to be chained to their desk and work nonstop is a little outdated. That maybe only still works in the military. I can't speak for everybody out there, but this company is huge on that. I mean, I think these companies have started to learn that the culture is ultimately is what keeps people here and what keeps people going, and they have a tremendous amount of like time off for things or family things or there's so much here that I wasn't even scared to broach that conversation. It was something I kind of figured out in the process that it was one of the things that drew me here was I figured that out really quickly. Um, but I don't think there's anything wrong at all with putting your whys on the table in a job interview. And if ultimately, if you tell them that family is very important and you want to be at all the things and you have 37 kids and you got to keep track of them all the time and you want to make the things, um, honestly, and this is Devin's opinion, if they didn't like that, I don't think I would want to take the job with them personally. So I mean, obviously there's a balance, right? They're going to expect you to work and they expect you to do the job. And I don't think any of us have that problem of rolling up the sleeves and doing the hard work. Um, but yeah, if it's one of those things where if they need you to work around the clock, and that may not be the right fit, I think. So I wouldn't be scared to broach that at all. I think laying your priorities out there is important. And I think they may respect you more for it.
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate that.
No, that's great. That's a great question. Appreciate that. Cassandra.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for coming and speaking to us today. I can really resonate with some of your fears going into the Salesforce. I have been exploring real estate property management myself, and I have a lot of the same fears going into it. I have been primarily customer service in my career field, but I'm curious, what investment has allowed you to grow beyond your limiting beliefs about sales?
What do you mean by investments?
Maybe things that have done to move past those thoughts, or things that have helped you gain confidence.
Yeah. One, let me caveat with my confidence is definitely not at 100 with sales already. Right? So I'm like the newest member on the team. Honestly, I think I'm the oldest guy here. So like it's been a little different. So yeah, please don't think that I'm coming in here with zero fear every day. Because that's not the truth.
I think that's unrealistic.
No, ultimately I do think there is a certain element of the kind of the imposter syndrome thing that, even some of the guys here and gals, they're late 20s and they're so confident just getting on the phone and calling somebody. And, I mean, part of this job is basically just getting called and hung up on or cussed at, or people don't want to talk to us all the time. You know what I mean? And they just seem perfectly fine with it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how do you deal with that? You know what I mean? Like, and that was honestly really hard for me. I struggle with confrontation a lot of times, which I know is weird coming from a military guy. I didn't really struggle with sailors, but I struggle in everyday life with that kind of thing. So it's getting easier as I do it. So Cassandra, I think I think that fear is actually a good thing, and it's something you kind of have to lean into. And I'd love to say it's all going to go away, but I think if it does go away is when you start getting that mindset like you have nothing left to learn, and I don't think it's a good thing. So I don't know if it matches your why, and if it fits your family and your lifestyle and everything that you need, and that's what you ultimately like doing, then lean on it. And yeah, it's gonna be scary. It still is, but we can get through that, right? We do know how to work under pressure, and we do know how to work through fear. And I'm still having to do that every day. So I was nervous about taking this call today, but I'm feeling better.
Well, that's good. Thank you so much for that answer. It's very insightful.
Thank you.
No, those are some great questions. I appreciate it, guys. And Devin, thank you so much for your time today. I greatly appreciate the conversation. Appreciate the insights, kind of the things that we dove into today to showcase maybe some of the things that we don't hear a lot about the workforce, the civilian crew past and stuff like that, and then especially the insights on PMP and stuff. There was a message in chat from Matthew. He said, heard you talking about PMP while in the process of retiring. Is the pursuit of a PMP by those who are not already in the PM world in their military career an outdated premise?
Ooh, I don't know the answer to that. If you are just kind of hell bent on getting into the project world, I would say it's a benchmark, right? If you want a project management job, that is one of those things they probably won't even look at a resume unless you have, especially when it's listed on the job board. However, if you're open to a lot of things and PMP is not this is absolutely what I want to do, I'm speaking from my own experience that I will say that I pursued it. Ultimately, I don't think it really helped me, but that's probably not the case for everybody. I don't want to down the PMP,
yeah.
But it didn't work out for me. So
No,
I
no,
don't think it's outdated, but
yeah, no, absolutely. I think, if you can collect these things and get these certifications, it just adds to your toolbox. It just makes you more well-rounded, regardless of what you pursue in the civilian marketplace. So, Devin, again, I thank you so much for your time. I'm going to post your LinkedIn there for everybody. You'll probably be inundated with connection requests, so make sure you check those right after this call. But again, thank you so much for your time, your insights. I look forward to connecting with you after this call as well, and seeing if there's a way that we can work together to find more pathways to success and joining Salesforce and the many opportunities that they have underneath their umbrella. So thank you so much for your time, Devin.
I appreciate it. I've enjoyed talking with you guys. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I have zero hiring authority. Let me please caveat that. So, but I can help you expand the network, and that really is important. So, thank you guys. It's gonna be okay. Just